Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
I'm doing great, my friend. We get to interact with each other and a special guest during this time of isolation. I'm getting some human interaction, and it's just made me realize how much I truly thrive on my communities.
Yeah, me too, man. It has been a lesson just these past 2 weeks of wow, community is so important. And I'm so grateful that we have social media and stuff like Zoom calls, because I'd be in bad shape without it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny, how much negativity is geared towards social media and technology. And right now we're literally like, if we didn't have it, you would have no human interaction outside of your house.
Oh, dude, it'd be crazy. I can't even think of how the world would look like.
You know what I am curious about, though, is what the birth rate 9 months from now is going to go up to.
Dude, that's so funny. We're going to have a baby boom, bro. December baby boom is coming, I'm telling you.
Generation quarantine.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be funny. How do you feel looking back now on the humbling times? How has your reflection been on that?
Man, well, as you know, I've been reflecting on this. That's the reason why I have a shaven face today. But it helped me take an even bigger look. My most recent, besides this whole coronavirus thing, my most recent humbling experience was my last jiu-jitsu tournament where I got injured. And I came in there so confident. I was training for my fight, so I felt like my skills were so up there, ready to compete, ready to win, ready to do everything. And in that first minute, I get injured. First match of the tournament, I didn't only lose, but I'm out for 6 weeks. That was just so humbling. And then on top of that, I'm already can't work out and stuff. And then the coronavirus hits. Yeah. So it's been kind of this humbling after humbling experience. But for me, I'm realizing more and more how necessary getting humbled is. And that's why I've really switched gears and really focusing on humility moving forward. I think it's just a critical piece in being your best and really finding purpose in your life.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the checks and balances, right? When everything's smooth sailing, everything's going well, sometimes you forget how much it really means to you. You forget about analyzing your process to see if you need to improve. So, for me, that's been a huge thing right now, having all my businesses shut down, losing contracts because of no fault of my own. You have a choice. You can sit and kind of feel bad for yourself, or which I did, don't get me wrong. I took a couple of days. I was like, oh, this is awful. Like I should quit all this. I need to go in a different direction. But now I'm to the point where okay, we've been humbled. So let me look at my process. Let me look, is there something I should have been doing that I didn't do that would make me less vulnerable to this in the future? So I think it's a great time. And I honestly think what we're going through now is going to be good for all of us in the long run if people look for, what do I need to change in my life to make sure this doesn't happen again, instead of just sitting back thinking none of this is our fault, because it is our fault.
Yeah, most definitely. It'll be interesting to see how the world looks on the other side.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I just can't wait to get out of my house and be able to actually talk to people and shake hands and not walk through the grocery store and everybody's so far apart, except for the lady that just ran in front of me and took the last of the paper towels last night. I'm like, you violated my foot rule. Dude, Taya and I went to the store, and there was literally one 2-pack of paper towels left in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And we come around the corner, and I see it, and I'm coming this way, and she's coming the other way, and she beat me to it, man.
Oh, how funny.
But I'd have given it to her. Like, I wasn't going to fight her over it. But I did think, I don't even think she pondered, do these people need it more than me?
Dude, there was this funny thing on Instagram I saw yesterday of this dad doing calculations. He's like, I saw somebody yesterday take 24 rolls from Costco, and he does the whole thing. He's like, there's 166 sheets, blah, blah. He's like, essentially this person would have to be shitting 164 times a day for the 2-week quarantine period. It was hilarious. Yeah, people are definitely overreacting with the toilet paper stuff. I actually just ran out of toilet paper, man, today. So I'm gonna have to figure something out.
That's hilarious. Well, I think all of this leads us perfectly into today's guest.
Yes, super excited, and not only to learn more about our guest, but to learn more about these cowboy churches that I have seen around. They are definitely an interesting title.
Sounds good, man. What do you think? Ready to get him on?
Yeah, let's bring Darin on.
All right, my friends.
So for our community, we have Darin Gleghorn here today. He's the lead pastor of Northern Colorado Cowboy Church, which I've seen some of those and have always wondered what they're about. So I'm really excited for today. Darin is also a family man. He's a husband, a father, and he's also a martial artist out of the Rocksteady program at Trials MMA. So On Purpose community, please help us welcome Mr. Darin Gleghorn. How you doing this morning, Darin?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you guys?
Blessed, my friend. We're blessed. Anytime we get to help share stories like this, it's a humbling honor. So we're excited to have you.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's like Jared had mentioned earlier, we love doing these in person, but with everything going on, we're appreciative that we at least are able to hang out with you on the digital conference call. So thank you for giving us some of your time today and sharing your purpose and story with us and our community. I know that we're all excited to hear a little bit and learn more about you.
All right, Darin. But we don't like to jump into the deep part of your story without a little warm up first. It's just like at Trials. We got to warm you up and get you moving before we hit the big stuff. So I hope you're ready for this.
Well, I've been watching or been listening a little bit, and I've been prepared for this. So.
Oh, man. Well, we are creatures of habit, so if you're prepared, I'm excited for your answers. All right, Darin. You get one food to eat for the rest of your life. What are you taking?
Oh, man. I know I'm supposed to be all healthy and all that kind of stuff, but hamburgers are my deal, man. They're my jam. I love a good burger, and I can almost eat a burger every day. So.
Favorite place to get burgers?
Fast food type of stuff. I like Culver's the best, and that's probably my favorite. But my wife makes the best hamburgers that I like at home. So. All
right. What's the secret?
I think it's the beef. We this year got a what they call a Wagyu cow.
Oh yeah,
Wagyu meat, and so she's been making Wagyu burgers, and it's been off the chain good.
Dang.
Well, if she asked me, I'll tell you that you said the secret ingredient was her love. That's what I'll share.
It's stirring that extra love into it. That's the best thing.
Nice. That's a good choice. I'm definitely a beef man myself. So second question, Darin, is if you could be one superhero with one superpower, who would you be and what would your power be?
Man, I have never really been into the old superhero scene, but I knew you guys were going to ask this question. So I went and did a little research. And, you know those people that put out those quizzes on Facebook, all those little quizzes.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day that said your superhero would be what color shirt you're wearing and whatever is to your right. So that would be gray remote control. But in the superhero status deal, I looked and the one that I found was Deadpool. I don't know if he's a superhero or a supervillain, but he's a smart ass.
What? Oh yeah, he is a smart ass.
And he's got the superpower of healing himself. So that's what mine would be.
Yeah. Have you seen any of his movies?
I haven't. I need to go watch some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, he's definitely popular amongst the rebellious teenagers of superheroes.
I guess that's easy.
All right, and what? One last warm-up question for you, Darin. What book are you currently reading?
I've got so many that I start, and read at one time. But right now, the one that I'm currently reading is called "To Hell with the Hustle," and it's just about slowing down in life. Just trying to find that place of slowing down and enjoying the moments. And so that's "To Hell with the Hustle" is the name of it by Jefferson Bethke, and so that's the one I'm reading. And I'm also reading this great bestseller, Extraordinary People in Ordinary Places. So
thank you, my friend.
phenomenal.
That book, To Hell with the Hustle, that's pretty timely right now, right? Because we're all being forced to actually disengage from our hustle.
It definitely is, and he gives an anecdote in there about two fish that are swimming in the ocean, two young fish that are swimming in the ocean, and they come across a older fish. This older fish looks at them and says, "How's the water today, boys?" And they said, "What the hell is water?" See, we get so caught up in the hurry and the hustle of life sometimes that we don't even realize we're in it. And this book is really bringing the awareness of slowing things down, enjoying the moment, learning how to better focus on hustling and hurrying in our normal everyday life by living from the
right on time with that book recommendation.
For sure.
Yeah, very good. Good. You seem all warmed up, Darin. You gotta. I appreciate you doing research on the warm up, man. That's impressive.
Man, I listened to Dan Oblinger.
Yeah.
Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, the hostage negotiator.
Yeah, hostage negotiator. And I listened to Patrick the other day, and man, what phenomenal guys you got that I get to be a part of on this podcast. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, we love it. And that's a great segue into a little bit of your story, Darin. So if you would, why don't tell us kind of how you stumbled into your purpose in life and what events led you there?
Man, I would say just life led me there. I grew up in church all my life. My mom took me and my brother to church, and kind of from the time I was 3 years old till I was 17 years old, was in church every week, every time the doors were open, so to speak. And in that, I kind of lost interest in the organized church and denominational church and things like that, and just ran as hard and fast as I could from it when I went to college. And I don't know if you all know college days like that, but it gets pretty fun, parties and all that good stuff. And so I kind of got into that whole scene, and life just started catching up with me, and I needed to fall back on what I knew as a kid. And so I one night gave my life back to God and just said, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And so I did that, and I began to go to rodeos, and I was kind of in the cowboy scene at that time, and excuse me, started going to some rodeos and things like that. Got hooked up with some guys that were in ministry doing cowboy stuff, rodeos, things like that, and things just started shifting for me. And I knew that my purpose in life began to be like Ali said about my introduction a while ago, is pioneering people into a purposeful relationship with God. And so that's basically where I went, and things fell into place to where we started a cowboy church in here in Northern Colorado in May of 2000. And so here we are almost 20 years later.
Wow. That's a good run. Help me understand, what would you say for people that aren't familiar with the cowboy church concept? What's different between, like you said, the traditional denominational church and a cowboy church?
I think the biggest piece of that is it's being authentic and real. One of the things people ask me a lot of times is, do I have to be a cowboy to come to your church? And my was absolutely
that's what I thought.
Not.
I was like, do I got to wear boots and a hat, or?
Right. And my deal is be authentic and real. Be who you are. You don't have to try to be a cowboy or anything. I guess my only thing is you got to know who John Wayne is. If you want to come to church, you got to know who John Wayne is. But it's a come as you are type of atmosphere. It's not having any putting preconceived things together. like appearance or occupation or anything like that. It's just we are authentic people, and we began reaching out to the cowboy culture, but the cowboy culture is accepting of anyone.
Sure.
We just love anyone who wants to come and be a part of an authentic, pioneering type of culture.
So Darin, why the name Cowboy Church? Why targeting cowboy culture for worship in a church?
Right. Things have transpired over the years. We began by reaching into the cowboy culture in the Northern Colorado area, because that's who we were. That's just the culture we came out of, and we was really reaching into that culture. And just as things have gone over the years, it's been that come as you are type of attitude that people have come in and felt comfortable in our cowboy culture atmosphere. So things have kind of progressed into, we've had doctors, we've had lawyers, we've had people who are of different blue collar, white collar cultures that have come in, and they just felt comfortable there because it is just a come as you are type of atmosphere. And so we've remained reaching out to the cowboy culture with the name, but so many people find out that it's not just cowboys.
And I think that's a good tie-in, because if you look back to the Wild West, the cowboy culture was one of the first that embraced people of all ethnicities. You had former slaves that became cowboys. You had Native Americans that had that. I mean, it was truly like, as a cowboy, their values were just hard work, honesty, integrity. And it didn't matter what you looked like, you could come be part of that. Yeah. So I think that's phenomenal for you guys to build a place where people can go. And if you wouldn't mind, I would like to know a little more. Because the cowboy church is kind of an alternative, right? Like, it's kind of outside the tradition.
Yeah.
Was there something that happened that led you to want to go away from tradition? Because I think there's a lot of people, myself included, if you've listened to the other episode, where we question certain things. Was there something that specifically happened with you that made you question, want to look to a different path?
Yeah, going back to when I was a kid and growing up in the organized denominational church, mainline denominational churches, some of the ways that it was organized and some of the ways that it was systematically put together, I was personally, as a kid, hurt by some of the things that I saw in that culture. And so when I came back into this, I was like, God, I want to do something for you, but I don't want to do what everybody else is doing.
Ooh, I love that.
That's kind of that pioneering type of spirit about it. And we wanted to venture, I wanted to venture into ways of reaching people that were not conventional. And the cowboy culture that I was in during that time, I didn't grow up in a cowboy culture. When I was in college, I kind of shifted in that direction because I went to an ag college. And anyways, I wanted to really embrace the culture that I was in and, join God into that. So that's.
So a little bit of rebel in you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let's dig a little deeper into that, Darin. I know sometimes, so for us as the interviewers, it's our job to really trying to get you to dig deeper, get a little bit more vulnerable, and like you said, be a little bit more genuine and real. Do you have maybe a specific moment or experience in your college years that was really the turning point when you're like, wow, maybe it was, for some people it's really impactful of sometimes a very negative experience that you come out of partying too hard, alcohol poisoning, whatever it was. Was there a specific experience that really woke you up and led you to church?
Yeah. there was a culmination of many things that happened in that season of my life, and never got into any hardcore drugs, never, smoked pot or anything like that. But I was a pretty vulnerable drinker, during that time, and was partying pretty heavily. And one of the things in the cowboy culture, if you've ever seen the movie 8 Seconds, it's, one of the lines in there is we're cowboys, we're drinking, loving, fighting cowboys. And that was the life that I was living at that time. And coming out of the church as a kid, I kind of felt heavy doing those things that were taught to me as being wrong in the conventional church. And so, a couple of girlfriends breaking up with me, and some big relationships failing in that time, on the verge of possibly being an alcoholic through trying to kill the pain of those things, is when I was in that place. I was reading a book at that time. I can't remember the name of it. Is by the author Tony Robbins, Finding Your Power or something like that. I was reading that book, and he was really hitting on some things to find that higher power in your life. And it just so happens that I was culminating into a moment. I remember going to I was asked to go to a Cowboy Church service. That's why Cowboy Church is really an important thing to me, because I was in the cowboy scene. And a friend of mine that I was roping with a little bit, he said, "Would you come to my church? We're doing a Cowboy Church service." And it was that Cowboy Church service that I went to with a hangover. I had to sit down during the worship time because I was about to pass out or throw up, and that'd be kind of embarrassing to do in a church that you're visiting.
Yeah.
But it was during that time that I realized that I could walk in the Christianity that I was raised in and still be a cowboy, and not, or find some peace where I was not finding peace where I was living at that moment. So
wow.
That's good.
That transition.
And have you found that your story and searching for that inner peace has allowed you to connect and quite honestly be a foundation for having your own ministry for 20 years?
I think so. I think it's given me a platform to not judge people in how they live.
Yeah.
And if they're dealing with that pain, if they're dealing with trying to drown that pain, or trying to get rid of it through substances or sex or whatever, that I can relate. I was there. And so really, jumping off of that diving board, so to speak, into their lives and saying that I can relate to you. I'm not here to change you. I'm just here to tell you what changed me. And so
I think that's beautiful, Darin, because religion, scripture is so useful, but I think that our main books, you look at the Torah, the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, the Quran, they're just written in a way that's really difficult to comprehend. I come from a family, Catholic and Muslim, two very conservative religions. And when you go to some of these traditional services, it's really difficult for some of these messages to resonate with you. And it's all "thy shalt not kill," and the way the language is written. So I think what you guys are doing is extremely unique by targeting a culture. Being from Texas, I was also attracted to the cowboy culture as well. My background's in oil and gas. I got me some Luke Casey boots. I got some cowboy hats. I got it all, even though I'm Arab Mexican, Arabian cowboy over here. But I feel that too as well, that the cowboy culture is very welcoming, especially down in Texas. We have all types of colored cowboys, vaqueros, Mexican cowboys. Yeah. That's a really cool thing. And I haven't seen stuff like that. Churches geared towards a culture. I've never seen a hip hop church, right, or anything like that. So I'm curious to know, what do you think it is about Cowboy Church that really makes it attractive to the cowboy culture?
I think you're absolutely right. These ancient writings that we have that we springboard off of in church world, in religion world. It's ancient. It's like you said, it is ancient writings. They're hundreds of thousands of years old. Taking those things for us as cowboys, taking those things and trying to make them as simple as possible. Cowboy world is of the simple life. It's horseback. It's not mechanized. For the most part, we like to go back to the roots of those simple ways and be effective in those simple ways. And I think Cowboy Church is trying to do that very thing. Take these ancient writings and make them as simple as possible, make them palatable for people to understand what God was saying in those ancient times, wherever you come from, to make it as simple and palatable as possible. And so that's my, I guess that's my purpose. That's what I look to every week when I put together a message, is making the ancient now as possible.
Man, I love it. And I think I shared on the episode where we talked about spirituality, one of the reasons that I really questioned a lot of organized religion, and specifically the strict denominational, was when we were kids. I would say we were a very at-risk family. We didn't have a lot of money. We could have been influenced one way or the other, and we tried to go to church. And because my brother bit a kid in daycare, we were asked to never come back.
Oh man!
And I remember, like, the other kids in our neighborhood at the time would go to this church, and they're like, "Why don't you guys come to church?" And we had to say, well, we're not allowed because my brother bit a kid. And I think, like, in our communities, that's the kid you'd pull in first, right? Okay, why is this kid biting? Like, he needs something. And I always wonder, like, what would have changed for my brother if, instead of shunning him as the bad kid that was biting people, now your whole family can't come, somebody would have actually embraced him a little bit. So I love what you're doing, Darin, and that you are a place for, let's be honest, the outliers to come.
Yeah.
To hear the word broken down in a way that we can actually relate to because you've been there.
Yeah.
It's not coming to me by someone that pretends they're perfect or talks down to us, and then we leave. You're not above us, you're one of us. And honestly, in preparation for your episode and just looking for more in my life, I've come to the last 2 Sunday online services, and I found great value in them. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Wow, that's an honor, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm gonna cowboy up one of these Sundays, maybe after this virus stuff, and throw my boots on and come down there.
Dude,
and check it out.
And if you want, I could drive you over to King Ranch, and guaranteed they'll let us in if we show up in that.
Boy, that's front row parking.
I was wondering if you had King Ranch only parking for us. Hey, Darin, I want to shift gears a little bit, because I think one of the fascinating aspects to your life, and certainly what brought us together, and something that I look up to you tremendously for, is your very public battle with Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us how that journey's been for you? Like, how did you find out, first off, if you don't mind sharing, because you're on the younger side of the students I get to work with.
Yeah.
How did you find out, and what was that emotional process?
Wow. I remember starting to deal with the tremor. I got a tremor in my left hand, and it would come and go. And of course, I just thought it was nutrition or something that I was doing that was causing that tremor. And long story short, I had an ingrown toenail. And so I haven't been to a doctor since 1992 or something like that. So not that I don't like doctors. It's, a lot of times it was that we didn't have the money to go to doctors and things,
Sure.
and I didn't have anything that was really ailing me to go to a doctor. So I went to this outpatient clinic and to have this ingrown toenail removed. And as he is leaning over me doing the checking all my vitals and things like that, he put his hand on my wrist, and it was tremoring. He goes, what's going on there? And I said, I don't know. I said, I just got a little tremor in my hand. It comes and goes. And he says, I want you to get that checked out, because he said, I don't want it to turn out to be Parkinson's. And that was the first words of Parkinson's that was ever spoken, because as far as I knew, it never run in my family or anything. So that really stunned me to hear those words. So as it progressed over the next year, I finally did.
Hey, Darin, real quick, what year was that?
That was the summer of 2015, I believe.
So you hadn't been to a doctor in 23 years, if my math's right?
Yeah.
And you go for an ingrown toenail.
Yeah.
And come out being screened for Parkinson's.
Right. And, you know, his concern was that it had to do with Parkinson's at the worst level, is what he was trying to tell me. Go get it checked out. So it was not till October of 2016 that I had an appointment with a movement doctor down in Denver. And so I made that appointment, went down to see him. And it was at that point that they run me through the series of tests that they do, and he determined that it was Parkinson's disease. So I remember sitting there, and when he said inside my head so loud that I could not hear another word that he said the whole time. I was relying on my wife sitting next to me to take in what he was telling me, because it rung my ears so loud.
Oh my goodness.
And so it scared me.
Yeah.
It absolutely just paralyzed everything about me at that moment. So we left that appointment, and, you know, of course, her and I began to pray about it and really step into our relationship with God about it and things like that. However, during that same time, all of the classic things begin to happen. You know, depression began to set in, even though I found that almost every week I was stepping behind the pulpit and ministering to people every week, stepping over into that other place like nothing was wrong. But then when I would step out of that place, it was just depression and dark days, one after the other, at that point. So that was in October of 2016. Did you
hide the fact you had Parkinson's, or were you open with it from the very beginning?
I absolutely tried to hide things. You know, when you're tremoring on the outside, it's hard to hide a whole lot. You know, and it was just my left hand. I learned how to stick it in my pocket. I learned how to put things into it, and I learned how to put it behind my back or whatever. But after a time, you know, things just progress, and you can't hide it. So you have to begin to confront those issues.
Man, and so you're starting to tremor, but you're still leading people, because one of the big things that we see with Parkinson's, just like you said, is that depression, and quite honestly, which leads to a lot of isolation.
Absolutely.
I remember you talked about just sitting in your office.
Yeah. This office that I'm sitting in right now, I've got a couch on the other side of the room, and there would be days that the darkness is what I call it, just feeling the weight of the looking at my future, you know, envisioning my future with this disease and the progression of it, and saying, you know, what does my future hold? Because I'm in front of people all the time. And I would just come into this office, and I would pull the blinds, and I would go and lay on my couch, and I would just cry and just wish that the day was over. And I hated the mornings, I hated the days, I hated the evenings, I hated all those things, because any time that I was consciously awake, I was tremoring and wondering about my future.
Man, that's tough. And you're so young.
Yeah. I mean, at the time I was, you know, diagnosed, I was 47 years old, and I'm 51 now. And it's, you know, it's definitely something that continues to weigh, you know, my future continues to weigh at what this is going to look like.
Sure. And what led you to fight back? Because you're definitely now not sitting in that office with the lights off, wishing your days away. You're making the most of your time. So was there a conversation or interaction you had? What led you to the switch?
Well, it was one of those dark days that was really, really bad. I don't know. My wife is in the next office over. We share a window and a door into our offices, and she knew when I would go into that place, and it was one of those days that I just wanted to quit everything. I just wanted to go hide and live in isolation. That she got online and found Rocksteady Boxing in Fort Collins at Trials MMA gym. And so she called and talked to Glenn Beach, and amazing man. And Glenn said, if you can get him to come with you, come and check it out on Monday. So we went over on a Monday. She told me about it. She didn't lure me into the situation, so to speak, but she told me, she said, I think this is going to help us. You know, I was diagnosed. They wanted me to get on a medication that was very expensive that my insurance didn't cover. And so I chose not to take it. And so I was off of all medications and just letting this thing progress on the inside of me. And so she said, let's try this boxing class and see if we can get it to get the disease to begin to calm down, get your tremors to calm down, and how to deal with this. Little knowing of what it would do in my life. Because we come over there and we checked out one full session, joined the next session, went through our 3 free sessions, and then we joined the gym, and we have been there ever since. And that was a year ago, January of 2018.
And I love the term "we." You said "we" so many times, and I think that is powerful because you and your wife work out alongside of each other every class.
She is my corner man. She is my inspiration. And when I see her hit the bag or hit the mitts or kick the bag, I know that she is mean and bad, and I don't want to be on the bad side of her. So,
no, and then you remember to say "yes, ma'am."
Absolutely. All the time. Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
Man, how did that impact the Parkinsons with the boxing?
You know, I was really hoping for a reduction in the progression of it. It really didn't reduce any of the progression, but what it did do was help my dark days. I can honestly say since January of 2018, I may have had 2 gray days in that whole time, maybe count on one hand how many gray days, but no dark days. I have not had a dark day since I started Rocksteady Boxing at Trials Gym.
And what would you attribute that to?
Man, I think it's the exercise. I think it's the increased chemicals in the brain. You know, you guys are athletes. You know what kind of chemicals are released into the brain. I have never in my life been a gym rat. I've never liked exercise. I may ride a bike, but that's about as much as my exercise would go at that time, until that time. And now doing Rocksteady Boxing, keeping the balance and the steady left and right thoughts going through your head, learning the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you know when you're boxing, keeping those combinations straight, making my brain work, releasing that dopamine into the place where it needs to go, and so I think that's been the big part of keeping the depression and the dark days down. And to me, I can live with the tremor at this point, but I can't live with the dark days, and I don't want to. They suck.
Do you think the community plays a role in that?
Oh man, extremely. You know, walking into Rocksteady Boxing, I didn't walk in as pastor. I didn't walk in as this leader of people. I walked in as just another person walking into a community, and the acceptance that has been taken all the way from Ryan to you, Jared, to Rustin, to Caroline, to Glenn, and then all through that Rocksteady family has been amazingly huge to what I need as a person dealing with this in my life. And so it's huge to have that community. And this whole isolation thing, I hate it because I can't be around my family.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely feel that as well, Darin. And I think so for my company, actually, the slogan is be your best. And those are two things that are so essential to living your best life is fitness, exercise, and community. And sometimes we do need multiple communities. Like you said, we have a different experience from sitting in the leadership role than when we do being the student role, coach. So that's amazing that you were able to come from, this pastorship to where you're always leading people, being the pastor, and come in and learn something completely brand new with a group of strangers. So kudos to you on that, Darin. I wanted to go back into your experience with the pastorship on one thing you let us know with your purpose, pioneering people into a more real relationship with God and releasing them into their purpose. I want to know more about how you listed here that one of the goals of your purpose is changing the world view of what church is. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I see when people come in, they have this preconceived idea of what church is or what it should be or what their experience has been. And one of the things that we did when we started Cowboy Church was to not reach into another person's congregation and pull people or coax people to come into our congregation. And so we really, like Jared said, we want the people who were unchurched or didn't have this preconceived idea, but we do catch those people with the preconceived idea, and in that to give them an experience, to give them just an experience of what we feel like church should be like, not this systematic religion, but to find this pure religion of serving people, of reaching into people's world and being relational with each other, and in turn being relational with God. And so that's, a part of that, what you're asking is trying to come away from that systematic organized religion and coming into a place of freedom in your religion or your relationship with God.
That's amazing. Yeah, I saw here as well. I really like the line of church not being a brick and mortar building where God lives, but you had mentioned that it's individual people who are the building where God lives. Well, what exactly does that mean for some of our listeners who may not, and for me too, really, I'm not sure exactly what that concept means. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, one of the things that preconceived ideas is that people go to church to find God, and that basically God lives within that building, so people have to come there. They come there and they leave there. They come there and have a relationship or worship God there, and then they leave and head back into the world and not have that same experience. And so what we like to do is for people to experience God while they're in the building, but to have an understanding that God lives in you. It's a relationship with Him, and He comes and lives on the inside of you. So you don't have to have that experience at the church once a week or however many times the doors are open to the building, that you carry Him with you. He is with you when you go into your workplace, when you go into your school, when you go into your grocery store or whatever. And so you take him with you. And it's not so that you can just have an experience. It's so that you can serve people from a pure place of servanthood to help and love on people. In the Bible, it said, the Apostle Paul said that pure religion is serving widows and orphans. And so reaching into their lives and serving them and giving them a place of belonging. And so I think that there's a lot of people, they may not be physical widows and orphans, but they have the feeling of being a widow and an orphan on the inside of them. And it's up to us as the church to be the church outside those church walls.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm not as well versed as you in specific Bible quotes, but I do believe in the Bible that it does say that God makes us to his image and his liking, right? Something similar to where we ourselves do have God within us and have the ability to create our lives before us and then manifest things in our life before us, like similar to God. So I think that's an amazing concept. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, it's not for us to be God. It's for us. His son Jesus walked this earth in his image. We should be in that same mindset. In the Christian religion world, is to we had those bracelets out years ago. That's WWJD. What would Jesus do? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the concept of saying, I'm gonna walk in the likeness of God. Exactly what you said, Ali.
Yeah, that's good you asked that, Ali, because that was a question I had as well, is what does that mean? And so help me understand if I'm hearing this right, but what I take from that is you're almost empowering me and telling me I have a responsibility to act certain way, right? Like I have an obligation to create relationships with people and to uplift people and to serve other people. It's not just when I go to the church and you serve me, but I should be the one providing service as well. Was that fairly accurate?
Yeah, the way that I look at church a lot of times, it's almost like an institution of like a university or something like that. The church building is to go and to learn those ancient writings and try to make them palatable, like I said before, but to take those things which we hear and learn and bring into our lives in the hearing of a church, but then begin to exemplify those things on the outside, begin to be, our behavior becomes to serve people and not just be served.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I think that's kind of the opposite of what a lot of people view, right? Is they go to church and they just sit and listen, but there's no follow-up, no responsibility to live by what I'm learning. There's no practice.
Yeah, it's always easy to go to church and serve people there and be nice and put on your church face and your religious clothes and things like that. But when you leave and go out into the parking lot and somebody pulls out in front of you, are we doing the same thing on the inside that we're accustomed to as what we're doing on the outside?
Hey, just remember, Darin, we drive Kings. Nobody pulls in front of us.
Right.
And yeah, I think, Darin, that your experience is very similar to a lot of people's, to where you're growing up, you got to go to church or synagogue or mosque or whatever it is because your parents make you. And then when you leave the house, I feel that in American culture, religion has really lost popularity. And I think it's because the messages are not being delivered in a way that is targeted to culture, like what you guys are doing. I really am excited to go visit because I really think you guys are onto something here with targeting a group. And like you said, not necessarily taking people out of other congregations, because I think there's truth in everything, right? You're going to find goodness in any religion. If people are congregating for a positive spiritual cause, whether you're a certain religion, there's some good out of it. So I think that's good for everyone. But targeting cultures, you're attracting people that have really no sense of spirituality and religion. So what are some things that you think our listeners could take away, whether they're in a congregation or not, that you have seen over your 20 plus years of pastorship that could be really beneficial for our listeners to put into practice?
Yeah, I think that, in simplicity, trying to stay as simple as possible, is that when you serve people, you're stepping into God's territory. And when you're serving, when you're, being nice to people, when you're, one of the things that gets me is sometimes, and this goes on in the Christian world, because we go out to eat after church, we have been into a really nice message and learn these things. And then we go to eat at a restaurant, and a waitress or whatever doesn't serve us the way that we think we should. And we leave them a terrible tip or no tip at all, or leave them a Bible tract on the table. That's not serving them.
No.
And my deal is serve them in a way that if you got terrible service, give them an even better tip, because maybe it'll shake them into knowing that they have a service as well. And so serve people, when we're hospitable to people, when we're giving of ourselves to people, you step into God's world, and it will always come back and pay you dividends.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Serving people, stepping into God's territory. I like that. That's a poster quote right there by Pastor Darin. Let me ask you this, Darin. I know that it takes practice. What you just said there, it's very difficult not only to be, what's that?
It's intentional. You got to be intentional about that.
It's intentional. And especially when you are treated badly, you could probably give me a Jesus quote here, but I think he says something about, loving your enemies even more, or the people that it's nothing to love people who love you. Right. But the true test is loving those who hate you, I believe is something along the lines. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You're right.
What would you say? Because that's hard. That's hard to do when someone's being an asshole or a dickhead to you. And yeah. It's, most of us, at least for me, my initial want is to react similarly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And respond in a negative way. What would you say is a practice to try and be more godly in that way of responding with even more love and kindness when somebody mistreats you?
Yeah. Man, that is a tall order, because we're so geared in that fashion to react. And, like I said, it's an intentional thing that you got to do. You got to intentionally be in that moment to know who you represent. If for some reason you're not a Jesus follower, you're not a God chaser, you're not a Christian, so to speak, or any other religion, maybe you don't even believe in God. The fact is, you still represent who you are. There's still the integrity of who you are in that moment. So are you gonna, what I like to tell my leaders a lot of times is, are you gonna bring a can of gasoline to a forest fire, or are you gonna bring a can of water? Because what you're doing, how you react, is either putting water on the situation or putting gas on the situation.
Yeah.
And so that would be the thing, a practice would be, you just decide within yourself, in those moments, I'm going to bring water to this situation. And, I'm not trying to say that we let people walk all over us, because there's a time that we need to be assertive and stand up for ourselves. But in those moments that are suddenly moments where people are that way to us, then we have to purpose to say, I'm going to bring some water to this. Whether I'm going to say something like, okay, whatever, say something nice, or just not say anything at all and just turn and walk away from those things. And, there's a time of, you're a warrior if you turn and walk away, or you're a warrior if you be assertive. And so that's, I don't know if that answers your question completely or not.
It does. And I just have one more before we turn it to Jared here to wrap us up and share some of your socials tags and things. For our listeners, one question I have is why even want to be in this way? What is the benefit of stepping into God's territory? Why be of service from a selfish standpoint? What's in it for me to be a godly serving type of person? How would you answer that?
I think, it's exactly what your tagline is being your best self now. And to step into the God's territory, stepping into service and things like that is being your best self. It is leaving a mark upon the other person's life or people that are watching that situation. It's leaving a mark on their life, saying that this person's got something that I don't have, because I probably wouldn't have reacted to that situation in that same way. But I saw them harness that situation and bring it into a controllable factor, and I want what that guy has. So it's a having and producing the peace and planting or planting a seed of peace into people's life in a world that's chaotic. And so it's so easy for us to get up in arms and go to war with one another when we should be in a place of peace. And so that's,
I love it. That's great. Thank you, Darin. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Absolutely. It's an honor.
So Darin, kind of got two audiences. I think we're going to get a lot of good information out of here. One is just our general community, but two, even more, is maybe our Parkinson's community, those that are engaged in that fight. So if you could share one or two tidbits or experiences, quick nuggets for somebody that's maybe recently diagnosed or somebody in their family and they're in that dark place, what would you share with them to help get them out of that?
Just my experience of being in the dark place is find a community.
Yeah.
Find a community of people that you can be vulnerable, that you can be open with, that you can bear. Even if you're feeling like crap that day, you can walk in and not have to put on airs, but you can say, I feel like crap today. And they gather around you and motivate you and help you get through those dark moments. And the Rocksteady Boxing community, I've been in one other Rocksteady Boxing community back in Oklahoma, where I'm from, and it was the same kind of family. Even though it wasn't the same kind of workout, it was the same kind of family to be vulnerable with and be able to step into those to get rid of that darkness in your life. And the other one is you gotta exercise. I was totally against exercise before this, and now I'm in the best shape of my life. I've released those things into my body that need to fight against this disease.
And I love that. And I think for all our listeners in our On Purpose community, what Darin said is exactly what we've been talking about many times, right? Your circle of five, your community. It's a place to go where you can be vulnerable. It's a place that's going to hold you accountable to where you have to show up or they're going to check on you. Yeah. It's a place to be you. And I think in this time of isolation and worldwide virus, there's a couple things for me that really come out. One is we are truly one world, which means we need to start caring for each other more. And if you're religious and you're stepping into God's role, that's great. If that's not your thing, just serving your neighbor to be a good person, like just step up and do it, because we are truly united. And two, your community is crucial. Like as we're isolated, you got access to all the technology you want. What are people missing? They're missing each other. So use this time to reflect on who is our community and what do I need to do to improve my community or enhance the community around me. And I think, the Parkinson's community, that's probably the biggest thing I see is when people with Parkinson's come in and they light up a little bit because everybody there is in that same fight, and no longer are they embarrassed by their tremors or trying to hide it by putting it in their pockets. Okay, because everybody has tremors. And then again, you see the whole scope. Some people have less than you, some people have more than you. but when we're there, we're all the same. We're all in the same fight. And I think that's a huge message, especially at this time for our country, for people to really take home, is we are all in one fight together, and we're better off doing it as a team instead of trying to be all by ourselves.
Yeah. You know, the quote that I just heard before we come on air was, desperation is the breeding ground for innovation.
Yeah.
And when you're desperate enough, you will reach into that creativity place. Hopefully you'll reach into it and find that innovation that is going to take you to the next level, whether it's a disease, whether it's depression, or whether it's just being in isolation like we are in this current state.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Darin, thank you so much for coming on with us. I can't wait to get this out to our community. I think there's a lot we can all learn from you as your example. You are definitely an inspiration to me, my friend, and someone that I look up to, and I really look forward to the days we can all come out of our houses and interact again.
Absolutely. Get to shake Ollie's hand.
Yeah. So
it's an honor. It is such an honor, and thank you guys for the hospitality. You guys are incredible.
Yeah. So Darin, if people want to follow you on social media, connect with you, see what Pastor Darin's up to, where can they go?
They can go to Instagram, Pastor Darin, and that's PASTR, no O in there, DARIN. So
what happened to the O?
I think I ran out of room or something. Anyways, something that was unique and kind of catch. So they can, of course, I'm on Facebook as well. So, and
same.
It's Darin, DARIN.
Awesome. We appreciate you, my friend. It's one thing we're not afraid of around here is telling people the truth, and that is that we love you, my friend, and it's an honor to have you on our show.
Love you guys too, and if somebody wants to check out our Facebook page, our website for the church and just see what that experience is all about, n3c.tv.
Yeah.
The letter N, the number 3, the letter C.tv.
And during this time of isolation, you are doing online Sunday at 9:00 services, I believe.
Yeah, we're doing it on our website. We're doing it Facebook Live. So they can follow Northern Colorado Cowboy Church as well on Facebook. And we'll do Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Facebook Live.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Pastor Darin. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Ollie. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.